An elderly woman stood helpless, enduring humiliation at the bank, but everything changed dramatically when an unexpected guest appeared. No one in the bank, neither staff nor customers, anticipated that the actions of this man would completely turn the tables. Not only did he demand justice, but he also revealed a shocking truth. What compelled Keanu Reeves to act, leaving the entire bank in stunned silence? Before we dive into the story, let us know where you're watching from. Share the name of your city or country in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss tomorrow's inspiring tale. The story begins. "What's going on here?" Michael asked, crossing his arms, his brow furrowed. The man stepped forward slowly, removing his hat. As his face became fully visible, a murmur swept through the room. Keanu Reeves. Yes, it was him, the globally renowned movie star, standing right there. Now, everyone in the bank recognized him. Keanu maintained his trademark calm demeanor, but his piercing gaze was fixed on Michael. "It doesn't matter who I am," Keanu said, his voice deep and controlled. "What matters is why you're treating this lady like this." Grace was more astonished than anyone. She stared at Keanu, barely able to believe that someone like him had stepped in to defend her. Michael took a deep breath, trying to keep his composure. "Mr. Reeves, I wasn't aware you were here. But look, this isn't your concern. We have policies at this bank, and she doesn't meet the requirements." Keanu smirked faintly, tilting his head slightly. "Policies?" he asked. "Or just an excuse to humiliate someone trying to resolve their issue?" Keanu's presence carried an undeniable weight. Even Sophia, who initially exuded confidence, now seemed visibly uneasy, glancing at Michael as if waiting for him to justify himself. Turning to Grace, Keanu's tone softened. "Ma'am, what exactly is the issue? Could you show me?" Grace hesitated but eventually handed him an envelope. Keanu accepted it with care and began examining the documents inside. After a few moments, he looked up, his gaze locking onto Michael. "This is a mistake," Keanu stated firmly. "These fees shouldn't be here. You're going to correct this immediately." Michael opened his mouth to argue, but Keanu raised a hand, cutting him off. "If this is an error, you'll fix it. If it's not, things are about to get much worse for you." The entire bank was engulfed in shock. No one expected someone like Keanu Reeves to step in so directly. But he wasn't finished. Keanu placed the envelope firmly on the counter, his gaze unwavering as he stared at Michael. "I want you to check this immediately," he said, "and I'm not leaving until this is resolved." Michael looked flustered, unaware that Keanu had already begun to uncover a problem far greater than just an error in Grace's account. Michael Murphy, visibly uncomfortable, adjusted his collar and glanced at Sophia. She was equally uneasy, her expression betraying confusion and uncertainty. Leaning slightly over the counter, Keanu maintained his signature calm but resolute demeanor. "This isn't just about a minor mistake, is it?" he said. "We're talking about how you treat a customer who deserves respect. And from what I've seen, that respect is clearly missing here." Sophia tried to break the tense silence, her voice shaky. "Mr. Reeves, perhaps you don't fully understand how the system works. We follow strict guidelines." Keanu raised his hand again, interrupting her politely but firmly. "Strict guidelines?" he echoed. "I know enough to see that these charges are completely arbitrary. And I also know you have the discretion to correct them." Standing beside him, Grace clasped her hands tightly, still in disbelief at what was unfolding. Keanu glanced at her, offering a gentle smile as if to reassure her. "Don't worry," he said. "We'll get this sorted out." The entire bank watched intently. Customers and employees alike remained in absolute silence, waiting to see what would happen next. Keanu picked up the envelope again, holding the documents in front of Michael. "These statements," he began, lifting the papers. "These charges started 2 months ago, didn't they?" Keanu turned to Grace, who nodded hesitantly. "Yes," she replied softly. Facing Michael again, Keanu's tone became sharper. "So tell me, why did these maintenance fees triple?" "Because there doesn't seem to be any reasonable explanation for it." Michael opened his mouth to respond, But Keanu cut him off. "You might want to think carefully about your answer," he warned. "Because if this isn't just a mistake, then you and everyone here are going to find yourselves in much bigger trouble." The tension in the room was palpable. The bank employees, who had previously appeared indifferent, now clearly displayed their unease. Michael knew he could no longer evade the situation. Swallowing hard, he took a step back. "I need to check the system," he stammered. Keanu folded his arms, his gaze locked on Michael. "Then start now." Grace stood silently, still stunned, watching as Michael rushed to the computer, typing frantically, his panic evident. Sophia tried to keep up, but her face betrayed growing fear. While Michael reviewed the account, Keanu stood steadfast beside Grace. What initially seemed like a minor error was beginning to unravel into something much more significant. Michael rose from his chair, sweat dotting his forehead. "Mr. Reeves, there's something wrong here," he said hesitantly. Keanu leaned forward slightly. "What do you mean by wrong?" Michael glanced at Grace, then back at Keanu before reluctantly admitting, "It appears these fees have been applied to multiple accounts, primarily those of older customers." The room grew even quieter. Keanu slowly shook his head. "This isn't a mistake. This is a fraudulent scheme." Grace wasn't the only victim, and Keanu realized he had only begun to uncover the true extent of the problem. Michael was now visibly panicked, searching for a way out but finding none. His hands trembled as he adjusted his tie, his voice shaky as he tried to explain to Keanu, who stood firm, his piercing eyes unwavering. "Mr. Reeves, I swear this is a system error," Michael stammered. "We didn't do this intentionally." Keanu narrowed his eyes, his arms still crossed. "A system error? How convenient. Why do these errors only affect the accounts of elderly customers? What were you thinking? Did you believe no one would notice?" Grace turned to Michael, her eyes filled with anger. Gathering her courage, she finally spoke up. "So I'm not the only one. How many others have you cheated?" It was clear to everyone that Michael had no satisfactory answer. Sophia, standing next to him, looked increasingly anxious, as though she knew something bigger was about to be exposed. Michael tried to respond, but his words faltered, his composure unraveling entirely. "I'll investigate this. I need more time to figure it out," Michael stammered. Keanu stepped closer, placing both hands firmly on the counter. "You've had enough time. Now tell the truth." He locked eyes with Michael, who was visibly unraveling under the pressure. "How many people have been affected by this? Be honest." Michael swallowed hard, casting a nervous glance at Sophia, who quickly avoided his gaze. "I'm not sure. Could be hundreds." Michael's admission landed like a bombshell in the room. It wasn't just Grace. There were countless other victims. Keanu knew it was time to act. Pulling out his phone, Keanu began recording. "What you're hearing is an admission from a bank manager that this institution has been wrongfully charging elderly customers to inflate profits," he said, aiming the camera at Michael and Sophia. "This is unacceptable, and we're going to make sure everyone knows about." Michael raised his hands, desperate. "Wait, please don't do this. We can fix it. I'll fix it immediately." Keanu lowered the phone slightly but kept his tone firm. "Fix it? This isn't just about returning money. This is about justice. Do you think an apology is enough?" Michael, sweat now dripping from his forehead, looked at Keanu helplessly. "What do you want me to do?" Keanu leaned in closer, his gaze piercing. "I want you to correct this for every single person affected. And I want the authorities to know exactly what's been happening here." At that moment, Michael realized there was no way out. He nodded, completely defeated, as Keanu stood his ground, ensuring that everyone would receive the justice and respect they deserved. Hours later, the bank issued an official statement announcing major reforms. Both Michael and Sophia were dismissed from their positions, and a full audit was launched to identify every account impacted by the unjust fees. Grace, standing beside Keanu, not only received a personal apology but also had all her lost money refunded, along with additional compensation for the distress she had endured. Mrs. Collins, on behalf of the bank, We sincerely apologize for this terrible situation. We are committed to making things right immediately, a bank representative said, their embarrassment evident. Grace turned to Keanu, tears streaming down her face. I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you for believing in me, she said. Keanu smiled gently. You shouldn't have had to go through this. But now, it's not just you who's been helped. Together, we've made a difference for so many others who were mistreated too. As Grace walked out of the bank, she seemed transformed, still humble, but with a newfound hope shining in her eyes. Keanu, standing beside her, turned to the other customers who had been quietly observing, clearly moved by what had just unfolded. Facing the crowd, Keanu's voice rang out clearly. Never let anyone tell you that you're less valuable. Whether you're young or old, wealthy or struggling, everyone deserves respect. And most importantly, never be afraid to stand up for what's right. His words echoed through the room, met with applause from customers who had previously been indifferent. Keanu gave Grace a small wave goodbye before leaving the bank, leaving behind a powerful lesson no one there would soon forget. Days later, the video capturing Keanu exposing the bank scheme went viral, amassing millions of views. The bank not only faced a thorough investigation, but many victims began receiving refunds for the money they had lost. Grace's story became more than just a call for justice. It transformed into a symbol of hope for countless others. Respect and justice should be the only principles we live by. Let this story inspire you to act with courage and compassion, no matter where you are. This story reminds us that it is never wrong to stand up for what is right, even in the face of injustice. Have you ever had to speak up or act to defend your own rights or those of others? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments. Your voice might inspire and bring hope to many others. If you found this story meaningful, share it with your friends and family to help spread the message of justice, respect, and courage. Thank you for watching and supporting us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on more inspiring stories. Together, let's build a positive community where everyone is heard and valued. Wishing you health, happiness, and success.